We're going to be covering the news on atheism, religion. Okay, I see on YouTube we have Chris, we have another godless atheist, we have GV, we have Christy, we have. Great. Okay, so I think everything is good. Guys, can you hear us? Everything? Let us know in the live chat how the audio is. All right, I think everything is good. Let's get started. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. First news. Let's go.
First news is out of Florida. Vegan parents starved toddler to death after feeding him only raw fruit and vegetables. So this couple, aged 30 and 35, had three different kids. And on September 27th, their 18-month-old died, weighing only 17 pounds. And that is about as much as a 7-month-old should weigh. So it's horrifying. The entire story of how this happened is tragic as well. But what they did was they were only feeding this 18-month-old raw fruit and raw vegetables because they said they're a vegan family, and that's what all of them ate. And then the last week that the boy was alive, he wasn't eating anymore, so she was breastfeeding him only. And she said that she was breastfeeding him, and all of a sudden he started breathing shallow. And instead of contacting authorities, she just went to have a nap with her husband, and they woke up and found him in a state that he was unrecoverable from. So police came to the home. They noticed that the other kids were yellow in color, severely underweight. And so the parents were charged with negligent homicide and or manslaughter, and the other children were taken, to get some care for as well. So here's the deal: is a lot of people are asking, why are parents feeding their children and babies a vegan diet? Because we constantly hear stories about vegan parents killing their children basically with a vegan diet. And I think that it's outrageously important to listen to a doctor when it comes to this stuff. When you're a parent, something means a lot to you, that's fine. But you should contact a doctor. I was a vegan for several years. I know that you guys know that I was a vegetarian my whole life. Then I turned to a vegan. And when I went to my baby's doctor and asked about, how can I keep her on a vegan diet? He said, by not keeping her on a vegan diet, if you want her to be healthy and grow strong and live well. So these
So the
parents,
doctor told you not to have your children on a vegan diet.
yeah,
Right, okay.
yeah, and while you can, okay, and that's the point I want to make here for everyone who's frustrated, you can successfully raise a child on a vegan diet. Maybe that's if the child's body is receptive of the supplements that you're giving them, because they can't get B12, they can't get other nutrients they need to grow from just raw fruits and vegetables. That's ridiculous. You should know better. And you need to constantly be taking your child to a doctor and have their blood drawn, making sure that everything is sufficient and they're getting sufficient nutrients. These parents did not do that. So this is a case of everyone wants to blame all the vegans. It's easy to do that, but this is a case, honestly, of people being neglectful and taking their cult-like beliefs to extremes.
Isn't it not just safer not to have your kids on a vegan diet and just let them go on veganism if they want as adults? Like for kids, isn't it a little bit more sensitive when it comes to diet? I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking.
Absolutely, because you have to give your children omega-3s, you have to give them B12s, you
Right.
have to give them so many supplements, and some little bodies aren't receptive to absorbing the nutrients that way. They need it through food. So is it easier? Absolutely, it's easier. It makes more sense. It's common sense, I think, in my opinion, to just
Yeah.
go ahead and feed your kid a well-balanced, diet and let them choose if they want to be vegan or vegetarian when that time comes. And then again, getting them constant care. That's important.
You know, I'm gonna predict a lot of people are gonna respond like, "Oh, this is false. Not all vegans are like this." Even though nothing in this news suggests that this is about all vegans, I bet you a lot of vegans are gonna get defensive over this news. Even though you're just pointing out a news that just happened, um, and it doesn't make any claim about other vegans other than these two horrible parents. I bet you a lot of vegans are going to get defensive simply by just reporting the news, right? I think. But let's see what the top comments are. Top comment is saying, oh, it's by Kylo? I don't know. He or she is saying, lie, my two sons have been vegan since birth and are the healthiest in the neighborhood.
That's so anecdotal.
And it's anecdotal, and what does that got to do with this news? Does that, the fact that your children are healthy, does that make this news a lie? So you're saying, look at the logic people use here. Like, okay, so my kids are vegan and they're healthy, therefore this news that says that vegan parents starve toddler to death after feeding him raw fruits and vegetables, therefore this news is a lie? Like, what? I don't understand. And this is the top comment. Okay, go on.
That's the thing, is these parents were actually, and vegans should be outraged at these parents.
Yeah.
Because these weren't feeding their child grains, not rices, or anything else. Raw fruits and raw vegetables. That's it. And I know good vegans. I know good vegan parents who care about their children, who have had their babies on vegan diets. They know better than this. They know better. So vegans should be pissed at this, not calling this lies.
Yeah, but okay, even though most vegans are not as horrible as these parents, there is a problem in the vegan community with regards to how sensitive they are, regards to any pushback against anything they have to say. And I think that the bad reputation that the vegan community has, again, a lot of vegans could be like, well, I'm not like that, or that person is not like that, or the people I haven't met are not like that. Yeah, true. But the vegan community has a very bad reputation about the way they handle criticism and the way they respond to people that disagree with them. And that has come at a major cost to animals, I think. Because of the bad reputation of the vegan community, a lot of people have washed their hands completely off of animal rights activism. I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying they should have, but that has been the result. And because of that, a lot of people don't care about animal rights anymore. And I think this has been because of the bad reputation of the vegan community. So the way that the vegan community has marketed itself and the way they have promoted their agenda, I think has hurt a lot of animals. Because a lot of people don't care about animals' rights as much because of the toxic way some, again, hashtag not all, some vegans deal with their activism. Do you agree with that, by the way?
I do.
Okay. Let me see the second top comment. Tristan is saying plant-based diets are much healthier for you than animal-based diets and are largely adopted throughout the world. These people are just idiots. Okay, yeah, but this news does not really suggesting that, this news is just reporting these two parents again. Yeah, but fair enough. All right. Shopam, did you want to add anything to that?
No, it's fine.
All right. Should we go to the next news?
Yeah, next news. One
second. Sorry. Okay, next news.
Next news is out of Noida, India. A man tries to rape a woman in a Noida park. Strangers intervene and then rape her. This woman was going to meet a man that she knew at a park because he said that he had a job opportunity for her and she wanted to get more information on it. So she meets him at this park 8 o'clock at night, and the guy tries to start raping her. So she starts screaming for someone to help. Two guys jump in, beat the crap out of the guy who was trying to rape her. In her mind, she's like, oh, thank goodness, I've been saved. No. Then they rape her. And then they phone 3 more friends who come and rape her.
What?
And then she ends up going to the police after that, having to scramble to the police station and report them. Most of them have been gathered by the police officers, but there's still 2 men that haven't been arrested, and so they're offering a reward for it, and she's currently getting treatment.
Okay, Shopam, what is this? What's going on here? Give us some understanding.
Okay, so it's in Uttar Pradesh, and this is not exactly Hinduism, of course. Rape is not particular to one religion, but It's like most things, like the culture there. It's like they don't really treat women as equals and stuff. And of course, they're like women are just property, and they have this misogynist idea that women would love sex and everything, and kind of like that. So
Hmm.
they're just like, if they many people, actually, I think most people, most men in that state are like they can't see independent women.
Wait, this
They
is a
just
very this is not tied completely to religion, but it is in one of the most religious states in India. Is that
it is
correct?
it is the most religious state, I would say,
So
in
how
India.
so even if it doesn't tie to religion, at least it does suggest what we say all the time, that even if religion doesn't make you less moral, it doesn't make you more moral either.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. And I can bet, by the way, that all these 5 or 6 men, I can bet they were Hindus.
Okay, but that doesn't
That
directly,
doesn't
that's
make
just
it,
that's on
but
them. That's
that
not
just
on.
just
Yeah.
proves that being religious doesn't make you moral or anything.
Right. Okay. So, but is this a so? Whenever we talk about India and rape, a lot of people from India get really, really worked up, and they always start talking about other countries, and they mention that it's not as bad in India as other people claim to be. What are your thoughts? Is this a cultural issue in India? Is
Yeah,
rape?
I would say it's a cultural issue. There are many reasons. First, I can defend and offend India in this case. I'll choose to offend here because when most people say, okay, see the percentages in India, India has a huge population, so there will be more cases in India related to that. While in other countries like in USA, rape percentages are of more usually more than in India. But here's the thing, like most women in India don't really report rape cases, and even men can be raped,
Mm.
and they don't usually report the cases. There are many reasons for this, because first of all, if like say a woman reports the case, it's very likely that the police won't want to file the case because the men's lives would be in jeopardy, and it is also very likely that her family or her village people and everyone around her would consider her disgusting and defiled and everything.
Right. So
And
So,
yep.
so one thing that the people from India point out is that if you actually if you look at total numbers of rapes in India, then you get a really big number, right? But if you adjust it per capita, it doesn't look as bad compared to other countries.
Yeah,
But
like I
but
said, most cases don't get reported.
but yeah, but the issue with that is that the way you define not only reporting but also definition of rape, like in European countries, is very different from in India, right? Like for example, if your husband rapes you in Europe, it might be considered rape. In India, not only other kinds of rape doesn't get reported. Maybe the woman that this was done to, she might not even consider it as rape herself.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
even the victim might not consider it a rape for her to even consider reporting it. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you're
but
dealing with
just
like yeah,
about that one thing. Marital rape in India is legal, by the way.
right, like it's legal. Okay, so the law
Yeah, it
does.
is legal for a husband to rape her wife,
Okay.
rape his wife.
So it's not only underreported, it's also definition wise, like the number. So the numbers in India are a lot more than what is being reported, right? So,
Absolutely,
right,
absolutely.
right. So the statistics that you're working with is not really reliable. You can't compare rape numbers in United States to India, given how underreported rape statistics are. But we can't also exaggerate. Like we don't know. So we're like blind here. All we know is that a lot of women in India do not feel safe. Is that fair to say?
I would say that's fair, because the women actually say stuff like, okay, I don't want to wear short clothes or a bit more revealing or comfortable clothes just because I'm walking down the road at night, and I want to feel safe, else I'll feel unsafe, and that stuff happens. Women don't feel safe here, and as a nation, it's failed because if your citizens don't feel safe, then you are a failed nation. I would say.
So here's an interesting. So the top comment says, I'm honestly no longer surprised at the atrocities human beings can commit. I just feel heartbroken for the women. I don't like this defeatist attitude because yeah, we have a lot of atrocities, but we are making a lot of progress. So I'm hoping that yeah, you don't be surprised, but still work on reducing them. Alex, so there seems to be a lot of laugh reactions to this. No, most of the top reactions are angry, but I don't know why some people have went and screenshotted the people that are laughing. And
Yeah,
Alex,
actually, on the first day after it got posted, the most reactions it got was the laughing reaction.
really?
Yeah.
So some people are screenshotting the people that laughing and trying to call them out,
Shame them.
shame
Yeah.
them. And Alex is saying people who laugh at this only come to show you that being an atheist is not necessarily a sign of being intelligent or having empathy with other human beings. Yeah, I mean, duh. Like, I don't even know why people are like, oh, this shows that atheists are not all intelligent. Like, who is suggesting that? Like, no, that shouldn't even be a suggestion. If you ever assume that, you're one of the reasons why that's not true, right? Anyways,
Right. But not only that, I mean, we do have people who are non-atheists that come to our page.
yeah, we do. But
So just assuming everyone here is an atheist because we're atheist or public is also a bit.
yeah, but at the same time, we do have a lot of atheists that are not very good people. So I mean, that's not surprising to me at
Yeah.
all, or not very smart.
Actually, also, some of the hard reacts are also kind of like it's a rape case in India, and for many people outside here, it's like, okay, what's new? That stuff, and people like how react. I've seen some reacts like those. They're like, okay, rape in India, what's new? Haha.
So India has become very famous for the high number of rape cases, right? Like I know, is that a fair, stereotype for
Okay,
India right now?
here's what I think. Actually, the fact that it is getting more reported rape cases nowadays is a good sign because it's the 21st century, and the millennials and the Gen Z, they are not like as embarrassed or as shy as the previous generations, and they're more into feminism and the Me Too movement and stuff, and they're like, okay, no, I don't care about what the society thinks, I'll come out and report this case.
Right.
And more people are reporting cases, and that's a good sign actually.
So they're not embarrassed. They're not thinking about saving the reputation of the country. They're actually more interested in fixing the problems in their country.
Yeah,
Right.
this does prove that not everyone is a nationalist here. This does
Right.
prove that there are sensible people here.
And by the way, for people that think like feminism and Me Too is all nonsense because they're all looking at everything from a Western perspective, look at feminism has done a lot of good in India, right? And that's at least one of the countries that is very much needed. And the Me Too movement in India had made a big, big positive difference, right? So just because if you
Yes.
come up with stories where Me Too might have backfired, please don't dismissing the cases where it actually has been very, very helpful, right? That's fair to say.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. Let's go to hold on. Let me load this. Next news.
All right. Out of Houston, USA, Kanye West to Joel Osteen. They are attempting to take prayer out of schools. So the rapper Kanye West met up with Joel Osteen. He is one of the biggest mega preachers ever. He's in Houston, Texas. He preaches at the Lakewood Church. So Kanye visited and they had a little chat. And on stage, Kanye asks everyone to be quiet because God speaks through him.
Oh my God.
And he didn't want anybody in the audience to be speaking while God was speaking through him so that the words could just flow easier. So he was aghast at the fact that they've taken forced prayer out of school. And he says, we need to bring forced prayer back into our schools. Mind you, this is from God, okay, straight from Kanye's mouth. He says, the more and more this country follows Christ and sets example that we are a Christian country, they are attempting to take prayer out of schools. When you remove the fear and love of God, you create fear and love of everything else. But let me break that down, not in a negative way, but a positive way. Reinstate the fear and love of God and eliminate the fear and love of everything else.
I feel like Kanye just wants to be God. Didn't he say he's God? He said, "I am God," and I think
Did he?
yeah, way back. Like and now, I think he just wants to really be worshipped, and he just using every different. I'm not sure actually, but this is. What do you guys think about his newfound love for Christianity and Jesus? Is he gonna bring? Is he gonna make Christianity cool again in the United States?
No,
No.
he's not. But his ultimate agenda, I don't know if anyone has been following Kanye news. I typically don't, but it's been showing up in my news feed a lot lately. He wants to run for president in 2024.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's been hanging out with Trump. Everyone has seen that, so this isn't a secret. And he's also seen how much the Christians have done for Trump. So if the Christians, were the backbone of the Trump
Right.
presidency, they're going to be the backbone of the Kanye presidency. If he starts preaching like he is, he's doing great. And I'm sorry, but America seems so dense when it comes to what we need for
I mean,
our government.
yeah,
It wouldn't shock me.
yeah. I mean, he has everything going for him. He has a celebrity status. He now has the Christian angle going for him. But I feel like he's very much like Kanye is very like Trump in a way that he just has to be not just the center of attention, but the number one center of attention. Like nobody's
Yeah.
like anybody outshining you in any way is just bothers you. You know what I mean?
And there have been a lot of people that have been pointing out lately. Old Scratch mentioned it here in a comment, but other reporters have also been hinting around the fact that they really think Kanye needs to get some mental health
Yeah.
help. And I mean, everyone should at one point or another, but I think that he definitely might have something going on too.
Okay. But do you guys think like why do you think he's not gonna like is this not a dangerous way of making Christian like he's a huge pop culture idol and he's now found Jesus apparently. Is he not going to make Christian like with Generation Z people are they going to become like because we're trying to reach out to Generation Z and we're trying to do our activism on Generation Z with very, very, very few limited resources, and we always thought that the competition is very unfair and one-sided against us. And even with all the even with the very few limited resources that we have, atheist activists have made a lot of progress against, the empires that are Islam and Christianity in the past decade. The difference that they have made in the United States, Ireland, Israel, and other places has been amazing. But this, not just demographic wise, but also politically, taking out blasphemy laws, taking out all these other, nonsense, removing the role of religion, and we have done that with very limited resources. And now, not only did Christians have all the money that they already have, now they have this guy with all his following all of a sudden on their side. Is that going to make especially Generation Z for us is the most important generation? Is it going to make our job a lot more difficult if if now they have some pop culture icons on their side? What do you guys think?
Honestly, I think not.
Why not?
I have great hopes for Generation Z, but I honestly do believe that they're at a state right now, most of them, not most of them, but a huge chunk of them are rejecting religion just outright. So I think it's going to take a lot more. And Kanye's kind of old. I mean, he has been an icon, obviously, for the past 20 years. But he's getting old. And the youngins we have coming up now, they're not really putting up with a lot of shit. From what I've seen, from what we've seen from Greta, and just a lot of other younger people. I don't think this is going to fly. I think that if he does use this successfully, it's going to be on the people who already are religious, that might turn to Kanye, but I don't think that he is going to turn people that aren't religious to him.
By the way, Hannah,
can I speak for Gen Z?
yeah, go on.
Yeah, so as Gen Z myself, most of us, I would say most of us, or a huge chunk of us, are not really Kanye West fans, and I think many of us, even many religious people of Gen Z, they're rejecting Kanye West and calling him stupid for whatever he's doing right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have hopes.
I hope if he runs for president, it becomes such a huge embarrassment for him. But let me see. The top comment actually responds to something that we should have responded to, because his quote is, "They are attempting to take prayers out of school," and Hannah is the top comment response to that quote. Hannah is saying, "You can pray in public schools on your own terms. You just can't force anyone to pray in public schools. I don't understand how that's a difficult concept." Yeah, I mean, they're like, oh, they're banning. This is so, like, yeah, we have to, like, always, thank you, Hannah, because we always have to point out that prayer has not been banned in public schools. Anybody could pray in public schools anytime they want. The only thing that has been banned is you forcing every kid to pray. That has.
Well, here's the deal, is I think that she just read the title of this because the title is shortened.
Okay.
So it makes it less, but he actually is talking about forced prayer. Not just prayer, but forced prayer.
Well, that makes it more accurate what Hannah said. What do you mean? Like, Kanye is saying...
Hannah's saying that, because she's saying that Kanye is saying they're attempting to take prayer out of schools. Right. That's not actually what Kanye said. That's just how they shortened the title. Kanye is upset that they're taking forced prayer out of school. He wants to bring forced prayer back into school.
That's what Hannah is saying. Hannah is saying that he is wrong, because Hannah, I think, is pointing out that, what Christians want is forced prayer, not prayer, right? I think that's what she's trying to say. Maybe, okay, let me rephrase this, right? So a lot of people have to understand that what Christians are demanding in schools, like as the more accurate quote suggests, Ali, is not prayers back in school, because prayers never left schools. Any Christian or any Muslim can pray whenever they want. What Christians want is forced prayer on people that don't even want to pray, right? So when they say bring prayers back in, so it's good that what you're saying is good, that at least he's being more direct with his quote. He's being more honest about it. Because what they want is not prayers back in school. What they want is, we get to tell your kids, your non-Christian kids, or kids that don't want to pray, we want to be able to force all your kids to pray. That's what they want, right? And we're going to be like, no, go F yourselves, right? Again, I wish I could swear on these shows, because it's not authentic when I don't swear.
It's been hard.
It's been hard, yeah. Anyways, let's go to the next news.
Next news is about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A backtracks, won't pledge to end donations to anti-LGBT charities. Here's the deal about this news. Everyone, we've been reporting about Chick-fil-A, who they donate to, whether or not people should eat there. And so Monday, it was suggested that Chick-fil-A was no longer going to be donating to groups that oppose the LGBT plus community. But then their CEO or COO turns around and says that it's not necessarily that they won't donate to those groups. He's saying that no organization will be excluded from future consideration, whether it be faith-based or non-faith-based, and that they're going to be focusing around organizations that help the homeless, and some basic things like that. So everyone was up in arms when they heard that Chick-fil-A was no longer going to be donating to the FCA, which is a Christian athlete program that centers around high school. and another organization that was Salvation Army, which is
Salvation Army,
absolutely opposed to the LGBT
right.
plus community. So everyone said, "Oh, Chick-fil-A is no longer going to be donating to these," but that's not true. And I don't think it ever really was true. So I think that this news saying that they backtrack is also a bit misleading, because all Chick-fil-A said is we're no longer going to be donating to these people, and we're actually going to change who we start donating to, and this is what we're going to start focusing on. And I think people are like, "Oh, yay, this means that they no longer oppose the LGBT plus community." And I think that this has all been just taken out of context.
I might disagree with you. I thought I celebrated the news. Like, okay, so Chick-fil-A eventually said, like, listen, we're not gonna donate to Amnesty. No, what is Amnesty? What is it called? Salvation Army. I don't know why I said Amnesty. The Salvation Army and the other anti-LGBT charities. We're gonna move our donations somewhere else. And a lot of Christians were angry, like, "Oh, why are you backing down against all these leftists and all of that?" And I was like, "Great, this is good. This is a good move." Why? I was happy with them, and even what was it wrong with that?
Yeah, this is what's wrong with that. Where in that, just because Chick-fil-A said we're no longer donating to these two organizations, you realize they donate to other organizations, right, that are outrageously anti-LGBT?
Well, I mean, they redirected it from at least the two worst ones to some other less bad. Okay.
Not even the worst. Maybe two of the most vocal. But where? Nobody can show me where a statement from somebody like the COO, where Chick-fil-A said we will no longer be donating to any organization that opposes. No, they never said that.
They never said that, but they did that. Because they cannot hide, like, no organization is going to tie their hand like this and like be like, "Oh, we're 100." Like, I mean, they might, but I mean, it still would have been better if
they only took away from two, not all. Only
which is
two.
progress. That's progress, I think.
It's progress, and that's great. But the news was headlined as Chick-fil-A is no longer donating to organizations that oppose LGBT. Then that's not true.
Okay.
It was false information to begin with.
So forget the news that was so the news didn't cover it well, but still, Chick-fil-A made progress.
Chick-fil-A backtracks. No, they did not. The media got it wrong to begin with.
Okay, so the media got it wrong. So the media got the titles wrong, but let's focus on what actually happened. And I think what actually happened was a bit of a progress. So Chick-fil-A was... You agree?
I agree.
Oh, okay, great. So, and I think... so the media got it wrong with all their headlines and the way they reported it. They do that sometimes.
But it's really riling up our community, both the LGBT community and the atheist community.
Right.
Everyone's getting really upset. How dare they backtrack? Well, they didn't backtrack because they didn't actually do this to begin with.
Okay, so what actually happened is that they're still supporting some anti-LGBT groups, but they have given into the pressure and removed their donation from some of the
most vocal.
So some of the most vocal was. And I think if you want, let me know if you agree with this or not, Ali. I think that should be encouraged, because we cannot just, activism should be with carrots, not just with sticks all the time, right?
Right.
So I think we should be like, okay, good job, Chick-fil-A. Like, I'm gonna stop my boycott or something. I don't know. There needs to be some rewards. It cannot be like, if your activism is like, no, still no, never until it's perfectly the way I want it, then nobody's gonna give it into your activism ever, because they know that everything they give you, you're just gonna keep asking for more and more and more, and you're never gonna be happy. So what? They're just gonna stick their ground and never give in to any of your demands ever. So I think, if any organization, if you're boycotting, if you're activism, if you brought attention to something and it gave some results, try to show those organizations that responded to your activism, that they're going to be rewarded for the sake of your future activism, I think. Right?
Yeah. Here's the deal. There were so many people that were saying this isn't good enough. And this is when they thought Chick-fil-A was no longer donating their money to any LGBT
Wow.
opposer, right?
That
Okay,
wasn't
this
even
is
good
when they
enough.
thought
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
okay? They were saying that's still not good enough. Now they need to apologize for everything they've done and just more and more and more. And like, okay, you have to understand, and maybe this comes from years of being a parent and learning to reward, you know, the good behavior that you see and not learn to constantly get what you want. You have to exactly like you said, give little treats when they do a little good thing, right? It
Yeah.
might not be the best, it might not be everything you've ever dreamed of or wanted, but my goodness, this is huge. The the Christian Athletes Organization, which I actually attended when I was in high school, they are single-handedly responsible for a ton of LGBTQ teenage suicides.
Wow.
All right, they're vicious. They made me want to kill myself.
Wow.
They're horrible. So for Chick-fil-A to no longer be donating, guys, this is great. This is amazing news. And the same thing with Salvation Army. They are vicious monsters when it comes to attacking the gay community. So let's celebrate this. This is good. Let's give Chick-fil-A the treat they deserve for that. I understand they're not saints. They're still donating to bad organizations. I get that. But they took a step.
Yes.
They took a step, and you know, you got to hold your hands out for them, make them want more.
Yeah, and this is an example of activism working. Like, you don't get these that much, right? You have to really celebrate your wins. Like, I mean, again, this is just our suggestion. Obviously, anybody could do whatever they want, right? Like, we're not saying you should now eat at Chick-fil-A, but consider going there and, like, I don't know, eating there with a gay flag or something, or eating with a Chick-fil-A sandwich and having a couples kissing each other or something in a picture, and posting that and saying, maybe posting that on Facebook or Twitter and saying, thank you, Chick-fil-A, here's hoping for more progress from you in the future, right? So, I mean, these companies obviously don't care about anything other than their bottom line, right? But because their PR and because of their marketing is very directly affects their bottom line, if you want to see change in society, this is how it's done, right? This is how it's done. And when you get wins, this is a problem of like the regressive leftist mentality, right? Either everything has to be my way, or I'm not going to accept anything from you at all. This is how your activism will fail, right? You have to accept small little wins if you want bigger wins, right? And this is, nobody is ever going to move an inch towards you if you don't accept small little steps towards you. If you're like, no, you have to either be with me or you're completely against me, then nobody's going to make that effort to come towards you, right? Let me see the top comment. But by the way, now this is a good excuse for people to now go eat their guilt-free, I think.
No, not guilt-free.
No.
Because they still donate to, they are not single-handedly responsible, and I think it's important that we do report this, Armin. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
But they do donate still to an organization, I think, called like World Family Christian Values or some organization, and that organization is absolutely behind funding Uganda's anti-LGBT laws.
No, guilt-free, not because they should be guilt-free. You can be guilt-free because you are now trying to motivate them to go further. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Chick-fil-A should be guilt-free. I'm saying that if you're eating there because you think, now I want to like remove this boycott just to promote the step that they took, then you can be guilt-free eating there, I think. I don't know. Luke is saying, I might be selfish, but I don't care about any of this. As long as it tastes good, they get my business. I mean, that's nobody. We're not telling people what they should or shouldn't do. We're just, we're just telling people what we think, and everybody could make their own decision based on what they think is right or wrong, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that was a non-statement. I mean, honestly, I do think it's, if we could make this, proves that we can change the behavior of companies, right? So, for example, if I thought that not eating at Chick-fil-A has zero impact on what they would do, then even if they have horrible track record, I might just still go eat there because it has zero impact. But given that we see based on news like this that it has some impact, these kind of these PR and these boycotting and calling companies out for their nonsense, then I wouldn't eat there. Because now I know that supporting an organization is me helping them directly, like my money is going towards something bad, right? I mean, technically every company, if you keep tracking, at some point your money is going towards something harmful. But if it's this direct, then we have shown with stories like this, we have shown that even boycotting countries, right, has changed their behavior. If you could change countries' behavior, do you really think that you can't change giant organizations' behavior? We can. And because that has an impact, I think it's a moral responsibility for us to constantly shame and boycott companies that are acting in a bad behavior. Okay? I mean, you could make a different decision, but I'm going to promote that line of thinking because we see it works. Because a lot of people are like, why would boycott this, boycott that, shame this, shame that? These companies don't care. They're just going to do what they're going to do. Why would they care about you not eating there? Who are you compared to all the millions that they're making? Well, look, stories like this show otherwise, right? Stories like this prove otherwise. Even if it's a little bit, that little bit matters a lot to that one. Even if one kid didn't commit suicide because of this, right? You're like, oh, they're still supporting other hateful organizations. Yeah, but the harm was reduced. And that is an entire world to some kid somewhere, some LGBT kid somewhere is going to be not harmed because of this. So to you it might seem insignificant, but to some people, to that one individual that you're never going to hear his or her story, that is their entire world. Anyways, we spent too much time on this. Let's go to the next news.
Next news out of Australia. Fired Australian rugby star blames deadly bushfires on gay marriage and abortion. Israel Folau, he was fired. He's a rugby player in Australia. He was fired months ago for his anti-LGBT crap that he was spewing out all over social media. So I think it violated one of his social media contracts. And they fired him from his rugby position. So now he's out spewing more anti-LGBT stuff, saying that all the fires going on there absolutely has everything to do with marriage equality and legalized abortion. And he called on Australians to end it. He said, please end legal abortion. God is punishing us for this. But what was really cool is other Christians in Australia actually did have something to say about this. And they were like, this guy is crazy. Right. This is not what we all stand for. There was actually a preacher who said that, if God were to punish somebody for legalized abortion and marriage equality, he would be punishing the parliament. He wouldn't be punishing, the East Coast. So I thought that was kind of cool that they, stood up and was like, no, we're not all like this. But this guy just won't stop. What do you think? Oh, and Chris, thank you for the super chat.
Oh yeah, thank you, Chris, for the super chat. That's very sweet. This guy is okay. By the way, Israel is his name. Just to be clear, is this guy like famous in Australia? He must be very famous, right? Why is he getting so much attention?
I don't know. Where's another godless atheist? He's from Australia.
Oh yeah, is he here? Let me see what the top comment is. I don't know why this guy is making so much noise. Is homophobia a big deal in Australia, or is this guy just one nut guy that is just getting so much attention because he's famous? Redmond is saying their PM Morrison is the same religious nut. He legit thinks prayer will stop the fires while cutting funding to the firefighters and pushing through talks of helping the coal industry. Okay, I don't know if any of that is true. That's just the top comment. Another top comment is saying such views are nothing unusual for religious nutters. The downside is that media keeps jumping all over anything he says. The upside is that hopefully it only serves to turn more people away from religious due uh I think due to his moronic comment. I don't know. Do you think it actually does that, or some people think like, yeah, like this guy is saying, this guy is the brave warrior that is saying all the things that we were too shy or too scared to say, and he's normalizing it. Thank you for being a warrior for the truth. Do you think like does it push more people away from homophobia, or does it encourage more homophobia? Somebody like this just being so in public about their views. I don't know. What do you think?
I think we had a great example here in the U.S. with Trump when he started speaking about Muslims and Mexicans, how they're bad. They're coming in here illegally and living in Texas. I know otherwise, but anyways, we saw a huge increase, I think, of people publicly coming out saying, you know what, I do agree, I do think this, and so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what this guy's agenda is, by the way. I mean, I'm glad he lost his job. I think that was a fair fire. But what is he doing now? Like, is he trying to, like, get revenge or something?
I don't really know, but what somebody in our chat did say that homophobia is not a big issue. Mark Caesar said that homophobia is not a big issue in Australia.
All right, well, that's good. All right, let's go to the next news.
Next news is out of Tennessee, USA. Atheists sue Tennessee school district for constantly pushing Christianity on kids.
Good.
This is pretty cool. Kelly Butler, who's an Army veteran, has 2 kids, Sharona and Jason. And those 2 have 3 kids that all went through that school district, right? Well, they're atheists. And they've noticed that over the course of time that this school district is constantly pushing religion on kids, like pushing it hard. Like the principal will have Monday assemblies, and the children have to call out what they want everyone to pray for, like prayer request circle kind of a thing. And sometimes even the vice principal will jump in with, here's my prayer requests. I would like you guys to pray for me. And just there's a variety of different things that they do to like constantly bring up religion in their schools for these kids. So the family is suing, saying that they think this is unconstitutional. They shouldn't be able to do this. And I can't wait to see how this turns out.
The parents like this are are amazing because they're not just saving their kids, but by doing this, they're saving a whole bunch of other kids from dogma and brainwashing. Like these are the people that are just like say like, yeah, no, you don't get to do this, and they just stand in the way of like all this nonsense getting. This is. I mean, these people are heroes. I mean, thank you for. If the news is being reported accurately, then these people are heroes, and we should be thanking them. Jessica is saying this actually makes me happy to be a Tennessean. Is that how you say? Another top comment saying, I live in Tennessee, and at this very moment my kids are having to write an essay on Moses and draw his pictures. I'm like, what the F? This is part of their history homework. Shake my head. Well, why are you accepting that? Like, if your kids are doing that homework, you should like rip it apart. Be like, what the hell? How is this part of history class? Moses is not a historical figure. Why are you accepting them doing this to your kid?
So here's the deal with that, and what a lot of people who don't have kids don't understand is when you see things like this, it's best to just talk to your kids about it and see how they feel about it, and help teach them using critical thinking of their own on how to deal with it. Because if you go up to the school and start raising a stink, then you risk ostracizing your child. Teachers don't like your child anymore. They once liked them, now they don't. They might say something, let something slip, and other kids start bullying your child now because they don't believe in God. And then they start punishing your child when your child speaks up and says, I think believing in God is stupid. Personal experience, I know this. Okay. I think that these people are freaking amazing. These people are heroes because they are risking. They all decided this is worth the risk here, and we're going to stand up for what's right. So these people are great.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's easy to make decisions to risk what, consequences to yourself. It's not that easy to make decisions like this when the consequences could be to your own kids, right? Yeah, that's sad. That's hard. Yeah, this is why if I ever have kids, I might homeschool them. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
Zeki is saying, good, you should not brainwash kids in making them believe in your standpoints. When they are old enough, they should make their own choices, and if they choose to believe in a higher power, they should. If not, it's their choice, not others. I don't know. I mean, I might tell my kids some things are true. I'm not gonna tell, like, if they ask me, like, Dad, is this, is sugar good for you? Should I eat as much sugar as possible? I'm not gonna be like, well, I don't know. You have to wait until you become an adult to make your own decision. I'm gonna be like, no, that stuff is toxic. Stop eating sugar. Like, I don't know. I think we're taking this whole let them make their own decisions until they become adults. I think we're taking that to a bit of an extreme. Like, there's some things that we need to tell kids, this is right, this is wrong. I don't know. All right. Did you want to add anything to that, or should we go to the next news?
Yeah, we can go to the next news.
Okay. Next news.
Next news is out of Michigan, USA. A mom sues Catholic Archdiocese after priest criticized son's suicide at a funeral. This is horrific, and this is something that I actually used to work in, a field I used to work in. But these parents got a priest to speak at their 18-year-old son's funeral. Their 18-year-old son had killed himself, but they did not tell the priest this. Okay, only a few select members of family knew that this boy had killed himself. It's a huge deal in the Catholic religion. For those of you who don't know, suicide is the ultimate sin that you cannot be forgiven for. So if you commit suicide and you're a Catholic, you can't be buried in a Catholic cemetery, or at least your funeral plot cannot be blessed by the priest at the funeral. Okay. So they asked the priest specifically, can you focus on positivity, life, wonderful, positive things. That's all we want you to talk about at our son's funeral. He says, fine. Well, somewhere between them speaking to the priest and the priest going to do the funeral service, he finds out the boy had committed suicide. So he gets up there and tells everybody at the funeral that the boy committed suicide. So his friends start screaming and crying. They're upset. The family is shocked and just humiliated and just emotionally, scarred from this. The guy goes on not only to tell everybody what had happened, but he actually says, let me see if I can find the quote. I think that we must not call what is bad good and what is wrong right, the priest said during the funeral. Okay, because we are Christians, we must say what we know is the truth, that taking your own life is against God who made us and against everyone who loves us. This is what this priest felt was appropriate to say at this child's funeral.
Wow.
All right, in front of all of his family after giving them away. So absolutely this mom is suing, and I hope she gets everything she wants, more and more.
What is she suing for? Like, this is in the United States, so there are some things you could sue for. Like, I think you wouldn't be able to sue for anything in Canada unless you could show like financial damages. By the way, I'm not a legal expert, so don't take anything I'm saying as legal advice or information. But I think in the United States, you could sue for emotional hardship. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And she's specifically suing for irreparable harm. Okay, because what he did there just can't be undone.
Good. I hope she wins. I really hope she wins. What the hell is this guy thinking? I mean, I'm not even gonna point out what a garbage person this priest was, because it's pretty obvious, I think. But Sarah is saying, I think we should be supporting this woman. The church won't go down without a fight, and people need a proper ceremony to cope with death of loved ones, faith beliefs aside. Yeah, but what like does this guy think like what is he? I'm trying to put my I'm trying to understand, try to see things from other people's perspective. Like maybe this guy thought he's being a hero, like he's gonna tell it like how it is, right? Like I'm gonna, oh, these people are do not want to hear this, but I'm gonna stand for the truth. This is people need to know that suicide is wrong, and I know this is gonna upset them, but God damn it, I have to tell them what is real. This is my opportunity to warn people, right? Maybe something like this went through his mind, right? Probably.
Maybe.
I'm just trying to understand. I know again, when I say I'm trying to understand other people's perspective, people think like that means excusing other people's perspective, right? Understanding it
Right.
and excusing it is two different things, and people always think like, oh, I'm trying. Like if you say like I'm trying to understand ISIS mentality, people like understand ISIS mentality. Are you suggesting that the way they think is okay? Like no. Understanding does not mean that you're sympathizing with their views. Understanding is just trying to say like how do they think. Even yeah, it's all messed up, but you're just trying to understand it so you could prevent it. Like understanding does not mean excusing. It's so simple, but people always confuse that. Rob is saying the priest needs to get slapped, slapped silly. Another person is saying not the first time a priest did not understand. Yeah, this is not actually. This is like deja vu, isn't it? Like this has been happening in funerals a couple of times by priests. And it was exactly like it was another suicide case that this happened. I don't know if you remember, but we covered a very, very similar story about another priest at a funeral. You know what? Just don't bring priests into funerals or anywhere else, actually.
They hate suicide.
Yeah,
They hate people who commit suicide. I mean, it is absolutely against their religion. It's something that they hate. So
right.
yeah.
Okay, let's go. Okay, Chopin, we need you. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Ali, next news.
Next news is out of Ayodhya, India. And that ruling was Hindus win case over site disputed by Muslims. It looks like there was some land. I know Shubham's going to tell us more about this. So I'm just going to give you a quick summary. But there was some land where a Babri mosque stood since the 16th century. It was reduced by rubble by Hindu fundamentalists in 1992 in a riot in which 2,000 people died. Ever since then, ever since 1992, this land has been disputed between the Hindus and the Muslims. And an India Supreme Court has ruled on the disputed religious site, deciding that Hindus deserve that site and that alternate land will be provided for the Muslims. And I think they're giving them 5 acres of land.
This was a very famous mosque that a lot of Hindus believe that the Muslims have built on top of a very ancient temple. And my understanding, Shubham could correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that the Hindus didn't have any evidence that this mosque was actually built on top of a sacred area, but whatever. But I remember also being there was pictures of Hindus I think there was pictures of Hindus attacking the mosque at some point and destroying it. But so this was a major point. This was a major conflict between Hindus and Muslims. This area among in India. This is a historic conflict. But I'm actually surprised how ended up more peaceful than I thought. Like Kripam, I want to give credit a bit to the Hindus here because they won the case, but they're like, listen, we're gonna take this over. But here's another land where you could build a mosque. Like they give the Muslims another land. The Muslims do not see this land as it's not that it's not as sacred to them as it seems that it is for the Hindus. So I think this is a pretty good deal. And I think another reason why I'm giving credit to the Hindus here, which I often don't do in this on this show, is that the court actually accepted all the crimes, a lot of the crimes that was done against Muslims in the process of trying to take this land. Like so, they gave the land to the Hindus, but they also acknowledged a lot of the crimes that was committed against the Muslims before when they were trying to take this land away from Muslims. So Shubham, how wrong? How what did I get right? What did I get wrong? And what's the other details that I'm missing?
Okay, so The mosque that was standing there, the Babri Masjid, it was demolished in 1992, if I remember correctly, and about 2,000 people were killed by
Right.
Hindus that time.
Right.
Okay, and
3,000 Muslims, right?
uh, I think it was 2,000 Muslims or 2,000 total. I don't remember exactly, but around 2,000
Okay.
casualties, around 2,000. And this temple was really a very undisputed site for years. Like they said, the mosque was there since the 16th century, and the Hindus were like, okay, no, this mosque was illegally built on a temple. I
By
mean,
the
there
by the
used to be a
Islamic
temple.
by the Mughal Empire.
By the Mughal Emperor Babur.
Hmm.
Okay, so they were like that, and Ayodhya, this place in Hindu mythology, this is the birthplace of Ram, the same Ram you hear all the time.
Right. So Ram,
Okay,
this is where the Hindus' god Ram was born, and they're like, yeah,
yeah.
the Muslims have built a mosque right on top of there, and that's why they went and killed 2,000 Muslims to try to take it back and destroy the mosque, right? But that
Yeah.
was a while back. Okay. So
Okay. Yeah.
okay. So what happened now?
Okay, so here's the thing. The Supreme Court, it wasn't easy for the Supreme Court to decide this. Okay, the Supreme Court was heavily relying on archaeological facts and stuff.
Hmm.
And there are two sides to what the archaeological articles say. Like the Supreme Court side, I mean, the thing that Supreme Court took was that there was actually a temple beneath it, and that's why the Supreme Court gave the land to the Hindus. If there wasn't, then they would probably have given it to the Muslims. I don't know. But another archaeological study, I mean, there were people when it took 6 months for the archaeological evidence to come up, and there were many people involved there. So some archaeologists were saying, okay, used to be a temple beneath this, but some other archaeologists have said that, okay, no, there's absolutely no evidence of a temple beneath this, and there is actually an evidence of temple, but it's not beneath this. It's a few meters far from that site.
But it's so strange because archaeological evidence, you're basically using, trying to figure out who owns this land today based on what happened, like how many years ago. Like this is archaeological. How many years ago is this?
It should be thousands of years ago if they're
Thousands of
talking about
years ago.
Ram.
Like this.
Okay,
Do you,
Ram used to exist during the Stone Age.
right, Ram. Like, do you really want to decide who owns what land based on like
Yeah,
based on
that's
based?
totally
Hold
stupid.
on. Based on ownership of thousands of years ago. Like if that was the case, then everybody in the United States has to leave, right? And even the natives in the United States can't own some of the land because they took the land from somewhere else, right? All the Arabs have to leave Egypt. I don't know, like.
Indians have to leave. Indians are Aryans. They came from
Oh
the
yeah,
European side.
Indians would have to leave India. Almost everybody has to leave. If people like, I don't know, like nobody's gonna be able to hold on to the land that they own today. If you want to go based on who owned what thousands of years ago, like this is so
I mean,
this is
we
so
should just
bizarre way of.
let dinosaurs roam the earth.
This is such a bizarre way of deciding, real estate laws, today, ownership based on who owned the land thousands of years ago. So, I mean, that is very weird decision by the court. But at the same time, I want to give them a little bit of a credit because do you think so it's, again, criticism, this is Muslims legally own this land and you're taking it away from them based on what happened thousands of years ago, which I think it should be irrelevant today. So that's, I think, a criticism against the court.
It's not just that. Here's the problem with the Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court took the decision as if Ram actually existed.
No way! No way, really?
Yes, while archaeologically Ram never existed. The existing time period of Ram is the
Wait.
Stone Age.
Wait, really?
It's the fucking Stone Age.
Wait, the Supreme Court of India made these decisions as if the God was real and he was born in this place?
Yeah, that's the fucking problem with this
Okay.
case. They assumed
Okay.
there was a Ram, and yeah, he was born
Born
here,
here.
so they based their decision on that.
Okay.
That's the problem.
All right, that's weird. But again, with all that nonsense, the only reason why I want to be able to give them a little bit of credit is because we don't. I'm trying to find an excuse to give them some credit because I don't want to be all negative against them. Is that they did give the Muslims some other land. Again, that is still not good because you're just taking away land from people that they own for hundreds of years. And based on what happened thousands of years ago, which we don't know even if it's true. But again, they did two good things. One, they gave Muslims some other land to build a mosque. But wait, are they paying them to build the mosque, or the Muslims have to do their own fundraising to build the mosque?
I don't really have an idea for that, but
Okay, so
I'm not sure. The Muslims are actually not accepting the land.
they're not.
Okay. Yeah, the Muslims, many Muslims have said like, we don't want charity.
Okay.
You are not giving us a land, and the Hindus are like, okay, it's the Supreme Court decision. You have to listen to the Supreme Court decision. That's the highest court.
Highest court.
And just a few months ago in Kerala, the Sabarimala, the menstruating woman case in a temple in the South India, these same Hindus were like, well, fuck Supreme Court, this is our culture. We don't care what the Supreme Court says. And now a few months after, they're saying, oh no, we have to obey the Supreme Court and everything.
This is such a mess. Okay, so what about giving... So forget giving them the credit for giving the Muslim land. What about giving the Supreme Court some credit for acknowledging the atrocities, the crimes that the Hindus committed against the Muslims, all the people that they killed?
I always say the Supreme Court of India is one of the most sensible bodies in the country.
Wow,
I do say that sometimes because they have taken some progressive steps despite the fucked up government here. But
so you're saying
actually, I don't want to. I don't want to be positive about them because they actually decided this because assuming Ram is Ram used to.
So you're saying even though the Supreme Court is so fucked up that they're making legal decisions based on Ram being a real thing, even with all that nonsense, they're still the voice of reason.
They're one of the
best voices of reason in the government in India right now. Okay, so that's sad.
And there's another thing about this case. The BJP, when they came to power in 2014, this dispute was politicized. Okay, so they were promising the Hindus, we will make the temple there. In Hindi, they say Mandir Wahi Banayenge, which translates to we will build the temple there. They were promising the Hindus that they would build the temple there. And that's how they were getting more and more votes from Hindus who wanted the temple to be built.
Oh my, religion is such a powerful way to play politics and get support and votes. It's just taking advantage of gullible people. It's such a powerful and destructive force, isn't it?
Yeah. So here's the thing though, in the next elections, which is still a few years, because this year they had elections, they cannot politicize this dispute anymore.
They're gonna find something.
They have to find new stuff.
They're gonna probably attack Pakistan again.
They are probably attacking Pakistan, and I think they're trying to actually, what's the word again? I don't know. They're trying to make their way into the Muslim people. They're saying like, no, we support Muslims and everything now after the case was settled.
Right. Okay, let's go to the next news.
Next news out of the Vatican. Altar boys say they were abused by priests at the Vatican.
Okay,
we're talking
hold on. Let's start this from the beginning. Shubham, can you mute yourself?
Yeah, I'm actually leaving. I have to really
go. Okay, that's okay. Let's try this again. Okay, Ali, start from the beginning.
All right. This is news out of the Vatican. Altar boys say they were abused by priests at the Vatican. So what we're talking about here is these children were actually being abused at the Vatican. I don't think a lot of people know this, but there is a youth seminary there that houses boys from ages 11 to 18. And they serve as altar boys. And they're going to the seminary school. So what happens is the boys shower there, okay, and sleep there and everything else. These boys are saying that in the 90s, priests would strip them of their robes, sit them on their laps, fondle them, kiss them, and this is all in the Vatican that they're doing this
Inside the
boys.
Vatican. This is wow. Okay, go on.
Yeah, and another part of their claims here is that the priests were helping each other cover up these crimes. So this is just unreal. The Catholic Church wanted a lot of credit earlier this year when the Pope came out and said, you know what, priests, it's now your responsibility to start reporting child abuse to the police, because everyone knows that priests weren't, they were excluded from the mandated reporting laws. So they were allowed to hear that somebody had committed murder or hear that somebody had, sexually molested a child, and they didn't have to report that to the police. Well, now when it comes to just child molestation, the Pope is saying, okay, guys, let's start reporting this to the police. And they're still not doing it. And even now with this investigation that's going on, the investigators are outraged and appalled that the priests aren't helping at all. They're not talking about what's happening. They're not trying to give any accounts of what happened on certain nights. It seems like they're still trying to cover up crimes for each other. So this is just, it's horrifying.
So basically, like, after all the promises that they're going to be transparent and everything, none of that happened, right?
That's right.
And this was back in, you said back in when? 1990s?
Yeah, in the 90s is when this abuse took place.
But is this a new thing for us to hear, that, like, because we heard a lot of the abuse of children, obviously, in many, many places. Correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first time we're getting reports of it happening inside the Vatican? I don't know. Or do we have...
Absolutely. And a new victim actually came forward in 2017 saying that he was molested just steps away from Pope Francis. Where he resides. So a lot of boys are coming forward now from this seminary. And even though we hear about this all the time, this is a new case. Even though the victims were abused in the 90s, most of the victims were abused in the 90s. This is a brand new case that is being investigated right now.
Is it fair for me to say that if we lived in a world where the laws were actually being applied equally, the police would be just raiding the Vatican right now and
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
Taking everyone out with handcuffs? Like, is that not, like, no, that's not how it works? I think.
Look, when somebody is accused of it here in America, they get raided, their computers get confiscated. I mean,
right.
Things are looked into. So why isn't that happening there?
Yeah, like, honestly, like, why is it? I mean, I know why it's not, but
yeah,
why is it that the police is not just going in and just be like, listen, this is an organization that has been covering, child molestation for this many years, and everybody is arrested. All your computers are confiscated. All your assets are frozen. Imagine that being the headline news. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, seriously, this would with any other organization, I think any other organization, that's what they would be dealing with after all of this. I think. I'm not sure. Imagine in Italy somebody making that their agenda, like a president or whatever. Wouldn't they become a local hero or something globally? I think if they did that. Imagine if they said, like, I mean, does the police in Italy even have jurisdiction on Vatican? I mean, I know they're a separate country, but can they, like, just kill somebody there and nobody can move in? Like, how independent are they? Like,
That's a good question. Yeah.
is it so that because they're own country, they can do whatever they want in the walls of Vatican, and the Italy's police can't do anything about it? Is that, I don't know. Somebody tell us. Let me see what the top comments are. This is a lot of people might make fun of how people are going to be like shocking.
Christy is saying they have their own court system and their own police and its own military.
Wait, so if the Pope shoots somebody in the head inside the Vatican, can Italy's police not do anything about it? Like they go well, that's a separate country. Is that how it works? I don't know, but I know they have their own courts and everything. But is that how independent they are from Italy? That's what I want to know. But yeah. But another thing I want to say is that I know a lot of people are going to make fun of how not shocking this is by saying, "Oh, shocking," but to me, this is a bit shocking. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing about it happening inside Vatican. Am I so naive to find this shocking, Ali? Am I being naive? Because I am finding it shocking, a bit.
Yeah, I think this is one of the first times that it's ever gotten to be reported because a lot of people are too scared. You know, the closer they get to the Vatican, just like what was his name, George Pell, who was best friends with the Pope, who was tried in Australia and convicted. The closer these people are to the Vatican, the more scared their victims become. So for these boys to step forward and say, you know, that just shows, you know, the power of these boys. They're not as scared as most people are. So I think that's but there have been several cases that have been reported about like a girl going missing in the 80s, who her brother believed was buried in the Vatican. There have been other cases where it's been suspected, but this is the first time I'm hearing of witnesses brave enough to come forward and say I was sexually molested by the priests in the Vatican.
So the problem is that, okay, so when we have like priests in the United States or in Australia or in India or in Philippines or in Mexico do something, at least we have, you know, I know this has been a major failure, but at least we can hope that we can get the police of those countries to take action. And we've seen recently in Australia and in Philippines, they have taken action against some of these priests, which is great. But I just don't know which authority, if it's happening inside the Vatican, is there anybody that you could appeal to? Like, are they completely immune from even any chance of anybody looking into this? Like, is there any? There's no higher authority, right? So at least in the United States, you could go to call the cops, or in any other country. But who do you call when they're doing it in Vatican? I mean, did they just build the crime freeze? I don't know. Let me see the top comment. Somebody tell us, please. The top comment is saying, "Surprise, surprise! Who would have thought?" Right? Well, I mean, I guess I was naive. Chris is saying, "Oh my God, what a surprise! I didn't think that this would ever happen at the Vatican. Give me a effing break." Shake my head. I guess it makes sense for them to do it in Vatican, given that you can't call the cops on them. Yeah, okay, that's sad. Sure, let's go to the last news.
All right. This news is out of Oxfordshire, England. Parents win the right to prayer-free alternative for religious assemblies. This is awesome news, but kind of stifling. I'll tell you why. These two parents who had their child going to a Church of England multi-academy, they won the right for a secular alternative to their religious worship in school. So in this Church of England multi-academy, which sounds to me like it's not a public school, but they do a compulsory religious worship where the children have to go and listen to like kind of like a preaching service, you know, or read the Bible or whatever. So these parents' child now gets to sit away from that and do schoolwork that's supervised by another teacher, which is great. And Humanist UK, which had been backing this family, the Harris family, said that it was a significant win, ensuring that schools do not force religious worship on children. But here's the deal, is that's not exactly what's going on here. The court made it very specific that this was just referring to the Harris family and this specific school. So this wasn't like a change in law or whatever for all parents, for all religious schools, or anything like that. So if, say, the Johnson family all of a sudden wants their kid to have an alternative, it's not rightfully granted to them immediately. The school can choose to, again, appeal the Johnson's case, and they'd have to go to court.
So this is not that big of a win, right? So unfortunately, they
that big of a win.
So these parents are heroes because they pushed back and now they managed to get, prayer not being forced on their kids. But what we were hoping for was for this to become precedent for all other kids. But the court unfortunately made it very clear that that's not what's happening. Okay, so let me see what the top comments are. But also, I missed some comments from the previous news. I wish I paid more attention to the live chat. I'm gonna read them anyways later. But right now, the top comment is saying from Anthony saying, "I thought you went to school to study, not talking with your imaginary friend. I'm happy I grew up in a secular country where we didn't have this BS." Steven is saying. Well, Steven's comment is way too long, so I'm not going to read it. But okay, that was our last news. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to read this a few comments that I wish I had read earlier because now it's going to get cut out of the previous news. By the way, to our video editor, don't include this as part of the last news, please. Chris was saying about the Vatican news. That's exactly how it works. As long as the Pope stays in the Vatican, he's virtually untouchable. Chopin is saying, I'm pretty surprised that it took place. I'm pretty surprised that it took place inside the Vatican. It could possibly destroy them with the bad PR. So it's surprising they even let the news out. Yeah, but it also makes sense that if nobody can get to them in the Vatican, then this seems like it's the safest place for them to molest children. Christy is saying, yes, the Vatican is its own sovereign country. If you will it has its own police and its own military. It has its own form of court system and as long as they stay there, they are safe. That is very sad and dangerous, right? Anyway, so there needs to be an invasion, which will never happen. Anyways, that was our last news. I'm really glad we had Christy back here, and thank you to Beej as well for modding. Shopam, thank you so much for helping us with the Indian-related news. I know you had some internet connection, but you still came, so that's very nice. Thank you, and thank you to everybody else. Becky on Facebook, Elish on Facebook, and who else? Mark, Vanilla, Afif, everybody else. Chris, I already said Chris. Casey Atheist. Everybody else, Old Scratch, GV, Vibrantly, love you all, and I see you guys again next week. Bye.
Bye.